Awesome. All right. Well, welcome everyone. So where we're picking up today is on page 83. And because I am naturally just so good at stopping uh, the big book study on time and like pacing myself in such a way, we're in the middle of the bottom paragraph, but I'll just reread the last full paragraph. So paragraph 3, there may be some wrongs we can never fully right. And this is the stuff that we were talking about last week. How do I make amends where I can't find them? How do I make amends where they've passed on? How do I make these amends that I don't know how to make? So it says, we don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would write them if we could. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter. And there may be valid reason for postponement in some cases, but we don't delay if it can be avoided. And I'm pretty sure that's where I left off, where I'm like, I promise you, there's, I've only ever suggested a sponsee delay on an amends. Like if there was something like a recent, well, any restraining order, we'll respect that. But like a recent restraining order, I'm like, I think it's a good idea to delay. But if we don't have one of those, we probably don't need to delay. And if we do have one of those, just know you're not alone. I've worked with people where that's been a thing. So, but the summary of what this paragraph is about is how do I make amends when I can't make those direct amends? And it spoke about writing an honest letter. So one of the things that can be really powerful to do is to write out a letter and do what is known as a gravesite amends. So if there is somebody that has passed on that we want to make an amends to and we don't know how, we can write out the amends just like we would if they were still with us. And we can go to their gravesite, or we could go to a place that reminds us of them, or a place that was special for them, and read out that letter. Now, if we still have that on our heart, and if you guys have been coming for a while, you know I operate very heavily based on vibes. That's how I do my budgeting. That's how I do almost everything that I do is vibes. But but if we've done that graveside amend and we still feel it in our heart, it's that idea of how do I know I owe an amends? Man, I got the twisties and the resisties. I feel it in my gut. I feel that weight. I can feel when it's not clear. So one of the things we can then do is look at, what was the nature of the harm? And what was something that was special to them and also special about them? So if there was something that was special that they loved, like the examples I used last week are if they loved animals, why don't I volunteer at an animal shelter? If they loved books, why don't I create one of those little free libraries or volunteer at my library? Like take some action and put that out in the world. And that's one of the things that can be really helpful as well. Is if we're going through grief and so just I was maybe supposed to do this in the announcements, but the energy was not right for that. One of the gentlemen who helped out tremendously with Big Book Compendium, David Bell, he passed away this weekend, and he had been fighting cancer for a long time, and it was a tough battle. And just with his passing and us picking up where we're picking up today, I'm like, oh, that's fun timing, right for the feelers. Uh, but but it's one of the gosh, yeah, no, he did so much for us at Big Book Compendium. He was always posting in the Facebook, and he would come to the meetings. He was just a genuinely wonderful guy. But it's one of those things when we feel the weight and the heaviness of grief. There's often that like, what do I do? And even if it's an amends or not, we could still do that when we feel that weight of grief. I'm somebody that my natural instinct is to sit and do nothing, but sometimes action can be what can help me to process. I'm not saying we don't sit with our feelings and that sort of thing. But if there's somebody that's passed on, we can think about what made that person special. What was important about that person? And be intentional about bringing that to the world and bringing that piece of what was so special about that person in our everyday lives. So that can be another way that is really helpful to make those amends, but also if we're feeling the weight of grief, to bring that to the world. So another thing that can be done in terms of those types of amends, are surrogate amends. And so if I owe amends to somebody, or maybe a group of people, and I don't know how I can make an amends, what we can do is we can make amends. And it's often most helpful to do a 12-step member because they know what's going on. They kind of know the process. It's not a weird concept, but that sort of embodies or resembles the person that we would want to make an amends to. And that can be a really helpful way in verbalizing the amends. And I've helped facilitate surrogate amends for sponsees. So it goes on to say, we should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. Now, when we get to the chapter the family afterward, we love to talk about happy, joyous, and free, as we should. I mean, if you're like me, you know happy, joyous, and free doesn't come easy. Happy, joyous, and free for somebody like me that comes after as much inventory as I got freckles. See how I typed that in? It took me a whole lot of spiritual action to get to a place where happy, joyous, and free were even like a glimpse on the horizon, let alone a lived reality in my life. And to get to that place of happy, joyous, and free, I cannot avoid making amends. Amends is a part of the process. Amends is part of the deal. And how we show up to amends is sensible. We use common sense. And a lot of times what that looks like is asking for consent. And then tactful, which is another way to be, another word to say considerate of others, which is, to be fair, I'm not going to stereotype and say you guys, but I will say somebody like me, I need the spirit of the universe to flow through me to have a little bit of tact, considerate, and common sense, let me tell you, and that humble. And that when we talk about humility, humility is not that self-effacing sort of attitude that I know I've been guilty of. That humility is that I am equal to you. I'm no better than you and I'm no worse than you. That we are shoulder to shoulder and that I am dependent upon God. That is humility. And that's how we show up to amends. Not servile, not scraping. It says as God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone. So we show up in that spirit of humility, which is to say equality. Not withering away, but standing, frank, open, and honest to do what we can to make things right. And now what follows is the 9th step promises. Now I want to emphasize these are the 9th step promises. Step 9 promises. You'll go to meetings and you'll hear them referred to as the promises. I'll be honest, I don't even think they're the best ones. I don't. I'm not saying they're bad or anything. I did read some, 10's pretty good. I have written inventory on the 9th step promises. I genuinely have. I've taken that through the columns. So yeah, we got some people that are throwing up hands for their favorite. We got some 10. We got some 5th step promises. I love it. Oh, you know what I should do? If you're interested in hearing more about promises, you should go to Paul's meeting, Extravagant Promises, where they talk about all the promises in the book. I'm supposed to be speaking there. I think on the 30th or something like that. I don't know. My calendar will. Let me give you a little shout out. All right, so these are the 9th step promises. And keep in mind, every promise that we have in this book comes with fine print, which is a little rude because I don't know about y'all. I'm a something for nothing sort of gal. I would like, I was talking about this morning. Could I get the free trial version of the 9th step promises? I promise I'll remember to, cancel the subscription. I promise I won't do what I did with my Audible subscription. I've had that bad boy for years. All right. But here's the deal. I've got to do the work to get the results. So it says, if we are painstaking, so painstaking, what does it mean to be painstaking? That I'm actively doing it. If you think about painstaking work, we're thinking about precision. We're talking about action. If I am painstaking with precision, with action, with really trying to clean up the mess that I've made, the harms that I've caused, not just glossing over, like I only have like 3 amends or whatever. No, but painstaking, like trying to really make right my wrongs about this phase of our development. So if we are focused on making our amends, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. And that is important. Now, this does not happen in step 6. Where this happens is in step 9. Before I am halfway through making my amends, it's important that's why, not all the way pedantic, but that's why I was just a little bit pedantic in emphasizing that where this comes into fruition is when I am making my amends. I can't rest on a 6th step and hope I have this experience. So the phase of our development is amends. And here's how we know that this is a promise. Because it sounds impossible if I've not done it. You mean to tell me I will make amends and I will be amazed with the results? No. That can't be. Right? I assume I'm going to make amends and it's going to go as poorly as possible. Now, it spoke of something quite similar in the 5th step promises, right? This idea that, like, amazed. Before I've made a single amend, I am absolutely, utterly convinced that could not be the case. That could not apply to me. And this is again how we know that these 12 steps are not intellectual, because I cannot come into a place of amazement with thinking about the actions that I need to take. How I come to that place of awe, that place of amazement, that place where I have changed despite myself and the world has changed despite myself. It's because how I see it's changed, how I show up to it's changed. But spoilers on that is I have to do this work. I make the amends and then I get the results. So it goes on to say, we are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. And the reason I'm not going to regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it is because I've cleaned it up. I don't have to hide from the ghosts and the skeletons in my closet if I've cleaned them up. It says we will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. Now, comprehend and know in that sentence is not coming from an intellectual place. It's not saying, Rob, get us the dictionary of comprehend and know. You don't have to. Just in case you're trying to do something else and you're like, oh no, you need me to get a dictionary? No. We're not talking about, we can find it in Merriam-Webster's. What we're talking about is that experiential knowing, understanding, serenity, and peace. And it says, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. You guys know how often I'll joke about, like, sponsoring others, work with others, alcoholics or drug addicts or whatever brings you to this all-inclusive study. Oh gosh, they're so unreasonable. Who wants to do that? Well, the truth is I did. The truth is I was always somebody that wanted to help. I always wanted to be, I know that some people are like, that's not, but I did. And if I really want to help people, if I really want to, what I need to do is I need to make amends. Because that is going to allow me a couple things. One, the ability to help other people get freedom from their past. But also, it is a demonstration of the relationship I'm building with God, the higher power, creator, spirit of the universe, a demonstration of this faith. I get to experience this power based on the actions that I take. And again, that allows me to be used to others. So it says that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. And that was all I knew. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. And we're going to talk about what a freedom that is. In the 3rd step, we're talking about how I am wrapped up in the bondage of self. I talk about I got me on me. It's like bone on bone. Like there is no tendon in between. There is me on me, and I need relief. But here, that self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change, and what we're beginning to describe is the awakening of the spirit. How I see the world is changing. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. I got some news. It's the fear of, it's not people and economic insecurity will leave us, which is maybe not like if you're a hermit and you don't want bills. I mean, that might sound good, but it's the fear that will leave us. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. And I can't tell you how true that is. And I mean, even the little things. You know what I mean? You know, when you've accidentally double booked yourself, and, or maybe you guys just don't know what that's like, and you're like, and you get the in your gut because you're like, what do I do? And you just try to do both things, and that doesn't work. Intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. Communication. Just how often it's been communication in my life. And so it goes on to say, we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. And let's be clear, what could I never do for myself? I could never experience permanent, contented sobriety. That is something I could have never done for myself. And sometimes it takes me a little while to get to things in the chat. I just noticed a question of like, okay, if I feel jealous about someone, but I haven't acted upon that jealousy, how do I make that amends? It's a beautiful question. Because in my experience, it is not helpful to go and say, hey, I was really jealous and judging you. And the reason I say that's not helpful, to be fair, I've not gotten anyone say I was jealous of you. Fair enough. But I have gotten people say I was judging you. And that wasn't the most helpful amends. So instead, what I have found to be helpful is to be very intentional about lifting that person up. So that person that I am feeling jealous about, I go lift them up. I call it pumping their tires. When we went on the trip to Akron, I was going to end up getting if we were able to scramble at the last minute and get a tattoo, I was going to get a tattoo of a tire getting pumped up because Akron was the rubber capital of America. Just for the history people. I make friends. It's fine. So yes, what I found to be more helpful than to say that was instead to be intentional, lifting them up, supporting them, praising them for the things that I feel insecure about. That is what I found really helpful. So now what I'm going to do is we're gonna have a look at these 9-step promises, and we're going to see that these 9-step promises tie in with a couple things. So they tie in with the bedevilments on page 52. And if you want, you can pop over to page 52 and have a look. If you don't want to, that's okay. That's why I made this little diagram. So when we talk about the bedevilments on page 52 are a beautiful description of the spiritual malady, a beautiful description of what it is like to live with a conscious sense of separateness from God. I say a conscious sense of separateness from God because I can never truly be separate from God, but it is a sense of separateness. And in the bedevilments, talks about we're unhappy, couldn't be of real use to other people, couldn't control our emotional natures, a prey to misery and depression. And so we cannot diagnose the illness based on the spiritual malady, but what we treat in 12 steps is the spiritual malady. And so when we talk about emotional sobriety, I remember when COVID, in those early days of COVID, there was a lot of emotional sobriety meetings, which fair enough, and I enjoyed a lot of them. But there was almost this idea sometimes that like emotional sobriety is for the nerds, for the people with the color coordinated highlighters, which Mine aren't coordinated, but I love my stationery. I've become one of those nerds. But but emotional sobriety is not an extra credit class. Emotional sobriety is the point. Emotional sobriety is the point. And the 12 steps are purposefully to bring about the spiritual awakening, which is emotional sobriety. So when it says in the 9th step promises, we are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. Well, in the bedevilments, we were unhappy. If I am here today and I'm driven by this feeling of unhappiness, what do I need to do? Because sometimes it's like, I don't know, and I'm trying all these things, and nothing's working. 4 through 9. 4 through 9, like my life depends on it, because it does. It goes on to say, we will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. And in the bedevilments, we couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. If I'm here today and I feel like if we feel that, I want to help people. I want to support people. I want to be of use to other people. I feel ineffective in helping others. If I make my amends, I promise I will be more effective in working with others. Our experience, and especially true because this will bring us into the realm of the spirit, the world of the spirit, where we are able to stay sober. We're going to talk about that if I do well for time, probably not. We get into step 10 and talking about that recovered state, those 10th step promises. We get to help others. When it says we will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. Well, if we're here today and we cannot control our emotional natures, we feel like I'm on a pendulum and I'm going from one extreme to another and I can't manage how I feel, we have an answer. 4 through 9. It says no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. And again, that feeling that I couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. It's almost like I gotta help people. Almost like this program isn't so selfish. Wild. All right. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. Well, if we're here today and we're driven by a feeling of uselessness, it disappears. When it disappears, when it falls from me, I know I didn't do it. It happens to me. I received the gift. The gift was always available, but I had to take action to receive it. So it says we will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. And in the bedevilments, it talks about we were having trouble with personal relationships. See, I can't be there and love you when I'm too busy thinking about me. And I promise you, it's not me loving me. It's me hating me and me showing up with insecurity and jealousy and resentment and fear. I can't show up and be the person you need me to be. But when that falls away and I set things right and I deepen my reliance on God, man, if I'm struggling with faith, go make amends. That'll be like shotgun and faith. That's what that's like. That's an inappropriate reference. But you know what I mean. Some of y'all know what it's like to shotgun. Woo! I mean, we would never. All right. So our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. And if I'm here today and I feel like I'm a prey to misery and depression, I can have that change. And if I'm here today and I feel like I can't make a living, well, fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. And if I'm here today and I'm full of fear, well, now we intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. And that God is doing for us that which I could not do for myself. And so we see this interplay between the 9th step promises and the bedevilments, which is to say the purpose of 4 through 9 is to bring about emotional sobriety. Now I'm going to feel like Billy Mays, and sometimes I'm a little loud. So some of you guys might be like, yeah, girl, you're a whole lot like Billy Mays. So I'm going to say, but wait, there's more. So this is my friend Glenn. And some of you guys know Glenn because he's out in Hamilton. And he made this graph. I think it's called the Sankey graph. I think it's phenomenal. So in the 3rd step promises, and when we went through the 3rd step promises, what we saw is we became less and less interested in ourselves, more and our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. And I spoke about how the third step promises do not happen on step 3. They happen as we will fulfill our commitment to the third step by working these 12 steps as a way of life, like our life depends on it, because it does. Because it does. And so we see this beautiful parallel, and I think the aesthetics of this graph are delightful. So, when I said, I was talking about how, emotional sobriety is for the keeners, and I'm like, would you have a look at this graph? And then I don't think Scott made it here yet, but when he's here, well, he is good at Excel. You know what I mean? I've become one of those people. But in the third step promises, it spoke about becoming less and less interested in ourselves because I'm wrapped up in the bondage of self and my little plans and designs, they don't work. And in the ninth step, we will see that I lose interest in selfish things, gain interest in my fellow self-seeking slips away. And I become more and more interested in seeing what I can contribute to life. And we see how I see how my experience can help others. I lose that interest in selfish things. And again, self-seeking slips away. And when it talks about discovering that we could face life successfully, that was a discovery. I don't know about you guys, but living was always a little bit much for me. Life, the volume on life was turned up just too loud, and I just couldn't do it. Well, ninth step, we'll intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear, so we're able to show up and face life. And that's losing that fear of today, tomorrow, the hereafter. And talks about we will comprehend the word serenity, we will know peace. That fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. And when it talks about we were reborn, that awakening of the spirit. And for something to be reborn, something must die. And what is dying is that self, that ego, that fear, that resentment, that jealousy, that self-centeredness. It falls away, not perfectly, but it falls away. And who I truly am emerges. And what comes from that is a new happiness, a new freedom. God doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. This change of attitude and outlook upon life. And so these ninth step promises tie in. And they don't live in a bubble. They are a part of this thing. I've got to do the work to get the results. So, all right. So I'll keep reading because I didn't finish the part that I think everyone was waiting for, which is, are these extravagant promises? Which, by the way, if I know, because y'all want to be like, we think not. If I am at an in-person meeting and it's a big meeting, and so a lot of people are doing we think not, and I'm sitting beside a friend, I will confess to you that I'm not always spiritual. I often lean over and I'm like, they do seem pretty extravagant. Yes. Yeah, they are. I don't do that in a small meeting. I don't do it when it's disruptive, and I don't do it on Zoom because there's nobody to talk to if I do that. All right, but are these extravagant promises? Yeah. Yes, they seem really extravagant. Man, when I got sober, I couldn't even imagine wanting to be happy. I wasn't even at wanting to want to be happy. I wasn't even there. So this idea of woo, lose interest in selfish things, gain interest in our fellows, woo, freedom, peace, joy. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty extravagant. That's pretty extravagant. But that is what is available to each and every one of us. Every human being who takes this course of action can have this experience. It says they are being, oh, thank you, Paul put in when I'm speaking. Next Saturday, thank you for the reminder. So come check out Paul's meeting, Extravagant Promises. Oh. And if you think the poster, no, I was going to make a joke about making the flyer for it. It's honestly, it's not my best work, but I sometimes make flyers. Alrighty. So they are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Now, when we talk about that, sometimes we want to emphasize sometimes slowly, but that is not in I've got to do them. You know what I mean? If I'm annoyed by this. I'm going to make this metaphor again. And you guys are going to be annoyed with me. So, do you guys know what it's like to go to a bar and you order a drink? Now, I know, nobody here. And imagine the drink comes and you just sit there with, I'm not going to do the full ice and the full clinking. And you take a little sip, and you set it down, and you talk about the weather for 30 minutes because it's weathering. And then you have another little sip. Who's annoyed? Who's annoyed? Right? Right? It's just, right? It's the worst. But how often do I try to do that with my amends? And of course we do. Why would we? If there's no judgment, I'm afraid. What's my two biggest fears? Rejection and abandonment. What am I facing when I make amends? I'm afraid I'm going to be rejected. There's an element of vulnerability, and I'm showing up in a place of humility. I'm afraid you're going to reject me, so of course I'm avoiding amends. But here's the thing. If I want the effect, and the effect that I need, it has to be more powerful than what I found in the bottle or what I found in the pipe. I need an effect that works. I was never going to get the effect that I needed by sipping my drink. I don't know a way to slowly smoke crack. I was trying to, I just want you to know what's happening in the back of my mind. It was like, how would one slowly smoke crack? And I don't know. You will be shocked to know that I was like a fiend. I was just, yeah, I was not smoking crack like a lady. Although I will say, pinkies up on that one, you know, like a lady. But I was going after it. But it's the exact same thing with the amends. If I want the effect, I've got to go after the amends. I can't wait. I can't put them off. And it's human to do that. I'm not judging anyone, but I've got to go after it just like I went after the drink. I slammed it back and slammed it back. And man, when we talk about pains, yes, I smoke crack like a lady. I think the only thing is pinkies up. And maybe if the bathroom that I'm hiding in is the ladies' bathroom, then it's like a lady. I don't know. Just, that's a smoke crack like a gentle, just smoke crack like a refined human being. No, alrighty. So, but that's the thing is like when we talk about painstaking. Now, I have a feeling I'm not the only crackhead, and if you're not a crackhead, you might not relate to this. But do we have any carpet surfers in the crowd? All I'm saying is, when that imaginary 20 piece that was dropped, and this is kind of only for the crackheads. I'm sorry, guys. You know what it's like. There was no drop piece of crack, but there. It isn't. There it isn't. There it isn't. There it isn't. You know what I mean? Yeah. Some of you guys know that there it isn't. Right? I was painstaking in trying to find that imaginary piece of crack that I dropped. Right? I've got to be painstaking in this process. I've got to slam it back like the drink. I've got to go after it, and I will get the results. But I don't want to, yeah, that's how I am. Just a dignified, refined little crackhead over here. Uh, like a lady. Uh, so I've got to go after it. And so it says they will always materialize. And this is, I think, I know we chant, we think not, but I think this is just as important to chant. If we work for them, I've got to take the action to get the results. Just like I got to slam back the drink to get the effect of alcohol. I've got to go after my amends to get the effect of my amends. And I got to do all of it. I have a feeling we didn't have too many people that left any of their alcohol behind, left a half-drunk glass. I have a feeling we don't have too many people here that were doing that. And I bet those crackheads, you were pushing that pipe bare, you probably know, like a lady, right? I've got to go after it, and I've got to work for it. And I can't leave any out, and of course I want to leave ones out. The hard ones, the ones I'm scared of. That's where the freedom is. And so they will always materialize if we work for them. So this idea that these promises are real and active and alive and come true in our lives, that is the thought that brings us to step 10, which suggests. Now, I will point out it is a suggestion. But we don't really have alternative suggestions. If we're like, I don't like this suggestion, we don't have a plan B. Well, except sort of we do on page 25, bottom paragraph, it does give us a plan B, which is die an alcoholic death. That is option B. Option A, spiritual awakening. So, we don't got another set of options. But it says, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory. Hold on a minute. When did I learn to take personal inventory? Well, I learned to do that in step 4. Yeah, exactly. And then I learned what to do with that. Yeah, I love it when we're doing the hand signals. I'm so here for that stuff. We learned to take inventory in step 4, and we learned what to do with it in step 5, and we learned what to do with it in step 6, and we learned to do with it in step 7. And then it says, and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. Where did I learn to set right my mistakes? I went to do that in 8 and 9. And so what we are seeing is the 10th step is a continuation of the process through which, I just saw the long pipe with gloves for the crackhead joke. Sorry, I just saw that. Very clever. Yeah, that like, ooh, that's how we smoke crack like a lady. Just got there. All right, focus. I'm sure that some of you are shocked that I use stimulants. And I'm sure, are shocked that I've probably done some brain damage, or brain damage, as I like to refer to it. Because, my cognition, she has been greatly impaired, just as I was impaired. Anywho, so we learned to take personal inventory in step 4, and what to do with it in 5, 6, 7. We learned how to set right any new mistakes in step 8 and step 9. So the 10th step is a continuation of the process that we learned in step 4 through 9. And the 10th step is what allows me to live in the here and now, what allows me to live free and in the present. But this is also how I can practice these principles in all my affairs. This is a part of being able to do this, to practice 4 through 9 on an ongoing basis. It says we vigorously, and I'm going to pause it vigorously, because the 4 through 9 is not a lackadaisical exercise. It is not trouncing through the tulips, although trouncing does seem a little aggressive, and those tulips are expensive. Why are you flouncing around in that bad boy? But it's not like a leisurely stroll. I meant to go after it. I meant to do it quickly and thoroughly, again, at the same time. So we vigorously, with effort, it's strenuous, it's meant to be, to clean up. Yeah, cleaning up the wreckage of my present. Absolutely, absolutely. We vigorously commenced, and the word commenced is to begin. Not, oh no, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm going to have to continue to write inventory? I know there are some people here that are just, I'm logging off, Paige. I'm done. What do you mean I got to do that? That's unnecessary. That this is a continual process. So we vigorously begun this way of, Paul's like, good night, I'm out, peace out, way of living. And I want us to emphasize way of living, because that is one of the themes that we've been looking at, that we've been emphasizing, that we have been underlining or highlighting. Way of living. This is not a thing that I did. This is how I live in the here and now. This is a way of living. I love everyone like, I've been doing inventory since, yeah, you've been doing the inventory. You can kind of tell who's worked with Paige and who hasn't. Is the people who have worked with Paige are vigorously typing in the chat, oh no, the inventory. And the people that haven't are like, what's the big deal? I'm just saying I see it already. All right, so this way of living as we cleaned up the past. And that's what 4 through 9 allowed us to do, to clean up the past, to bring us to the here, to the now, to the 4th dimension of existence. And here's how we know. It says we have entered the world of the Spirit. This is where we really awaken spiritually. That's what's happening. And if it's like, Paige, I don't understand how I'm supposed to get spiritual. That again, just like emotional sobriety, that is the purpose of the 12 steps. The purpose of the 12 steps is to bring about a spiritual awakening, a spiritual experience. That is the point. That is the purpose. I don't have to get spiritual to work the steps. As I take the course of action that is outlined in this book, these 12 steps, I will awaken spiritually. And I can do that regardless of what I believe, regardless of what I think, regardless of any old ideas I might have. I can awaken spiritually. And so it goes on to say, we have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function. Oh man, I've got to do some more stuff. This world of the spirit? I thought it would be like Cabo and I could just leisurely hang out on the beach. What do you mean? I got to do some things. So our next function, but I will point out, hey y'all, you remember in step 3, we got our spiritual pink slips? P45s for those in the UK. We got fired from the management position of our life and then we signed an employment contract. We work for God. We work for this power. And we got real excited because we're like, all right, we got to launch into action. What action are we going to do? House cleaning. Oh, man. And then we did a 4th step. And we did a 5th step. And then we did all of that, got all that stuff out of the house. Step 6. Do we get a new job responsibility? Are we in defect removal? Nope. We're in the willingness department. Then we get to step 8 and we're like, hey, do we get a promotion? Nope, still willingness department. and then what is it? What's the company? It's like restoration. Yeah, then we get moved into restoration in step 9. So, but here we have a job responsibility. Now, I will point out it's not technically a new job responsibility, but if you're like me, I don't want old things. I want new shiny things. Actually, that's not true. Paul and I, we both got new phones and we were talking about how that is a stressful endeavor. Very grateful for it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, change. But like, let's say I like change. The new shiny job responsibility. Okay, guys, what is this brand new shiny job responsibility? I'll even let you take off the protective sticker of this job responsibility. Here's what it is. It is, our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. So our next job is growing. We're growing. And what are we growing in? An understanding and effectiveness. Understanding of what and effectiveness in what? Of God's will for us. That's what we're growing in. What is God's will for me? I'm going to grow in understanding of what God is calling me to do and being effective in what God is calling me to do. Growth. And growth is the name of the game. Unfortunately, because I'm like, I would like stagnation corner. I would like complacency place, but in this spiritual monopoly, I've landed on growth, I was talking about it. I filled in at the Elizabeth's and Emily's Big Book study here at Big Book Compendium, Mondays at noon Eastern. And then I don't know what other time zones, because my brain can't hold all of that in one place today at the moment. But noon Eastern, and then it's on the schedule. And if you're like, I don't like your schedule, that's fine. We had somebody make a fancy schedule, and it's pretty rad. So check out hers. Focus. What we were talking about was that idea of we were at the point on page 60 where it talks about it is spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. And a lot of times in the rooms we hear, progress, not perfection. And that is one of those places where I'm pedantic. I am. I'll cop to it. Oh, I get pedantic. Now, I'm not going to be so rude as to correct people unsolicited, actually. Although I will let you know it's a struggle. And sometimes I don't always pick up on social cues. But stagnation corner. But really, it is this idea that, like, when we talk about progress, not perfection, it is so easy for me to think I'm progressing. Got the new job, new car, new relationship, maybe the old relationship, hopefully not the same time as the new relationship. We're getting all this stuff back, right? But none of that stuff could keep me sober. None of that stuff had the power to keep me from relapsing. There was no power in it. So while it is wonderful and it is a wonderful gift that happens for many of us as we take this course of action, that we get the material things and we rebuild the relationships, that's not the point. The point is, how am I progressing spiritually? How am I growing spiritually? That is the point, because that's what I'm called to do, to continue to grow. But here's the thing, there's no, this, I'm going back to the bar metaphor. I know that nobody in this room has ever been cut off at a bar. I know you guys have never experienced that. Uh, but there's no spiritual cutoff. There is no spiritual ugly lights that come on, and it's like, you know, gotta go home, but you can't stay here. There is no glass ceiling to this thing. We get to continue to seek and to grow and to have these experiences. So it says, we have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. And I always want to be like, oh, goodness gracious, that sounds like a lot. I hope it's an overnight matter. Oh, no, this is not an overnight matter. I hope it won't continue for too long. It should continue for our lifetime. Oh, man. Which, again, I'm not somebody that is pedantic, and I don't correct people when they say I did the steps, because I get what they're saying. They're trying to say, articulate that they've been through that process and living in 10, 11, 12, and maybe haven't had the need for another big house cleaning. That'll be around the corner. That happens. But it is not a thing that I did. It is a thing that I do and continue to do. So here is where we are going to get our directions for step 10. And we only have like 9 minutes left, so we probably won't go through all the directions, or if I do, well, that'd be a miracle. But, you know, we believe in miracles here at Big Book Compendium. But I'll make sure I review it next week is also what I'll do. And because I make handy dandy visuals, I made a handy dandy visual for step 10. So the first direction is right here, continue to watch. So the first direction is watch. And I will tell you, that is the most difficult direction for somebody like me. I'm actually sure that nobody in this room and at this meeting today is shocked. You're telling me Paige struggles with her attention span? What? I know. I am shocked. I am appalled. I am aghast at this news. But yes, that has always been the most difficult direction for somebody like me. Yeah, we got the squirrel in the chat. We got the, yeah. Thank you, Rob. That has always been the most difficult. And so here for me is where we begin this beautiful interplay between step 10 and step 11. These steps for me work together, and we're really going to talk about that. We're really going to break that down, whether we do this week and next week, or just next week. We'll see how it goes. But what we'll talk about right now is I did not have the capacity to watch until I had a daily meditation practice. That was not possible for somebody like me. I needed meditation to create a sense of separation. And actually, I'll do that. I'll make this a little visual with my face, because that's what happens. You see my face. So some of you guys maybe have familiar with, you know, when you wake up, and I kind of hope you guys don't, but you know when you wake up in the mornings and your stream of consciousness is like this, and it's just on me, and it's, I hate myself, I'm an effing loser, I hate myself, I should just kill myself, I hate myself. Kind of hope you guys don't relate, but that is what I am like on my own power. I wake up to consciousness in suicidal ideation. I have a thought that I'm the worst human being that ever lived, and it is. It's like on me. That's why I'm using this. Like, it's like just visual. There is no sense of separation. It is, it's true, I am. And when I am there, I cannot see that, hey, I'm a little off the beam spiritually. Hey, I might be experiencing some selfishness, some dishonesty, some resentment or fear. Like I don't have the ability to see. And what I found, and this is my experience, is that a daily meditation practice, like I talk about like a daily structured, I'm not saying we can't meditate at other times, and I'm not saying that other activities can't be meditative, but for me, that daily, and I use seated to say structured meditation practice was what began to allow me to have a sense of separation. So what began to happen was I'm a piece of garbage and it's on me and it's right there. It's like those little aliens from Futurama that like, or the oh, what is it? The face suckers from the one with Sigourney Weaver. I don't know what movie that is. Is it Alien? What should be Alien? I don't know. It's Alien. Okay, cool. I couldn't remember the Alien movie with the title Alien. That's how we're doing today, Paige. All right, but it's like that face sucker, you know, or that chest burster or whatever. It's just, it's on me and it just is. But I began to have a sense of separation with that daily meditation practice. And what happened was I'm a giant piece of garbage, you know, and I could watch it like floating. Like it wasn't on me, but I could see it. It'd be like, I effing hate myself. And I'm like, oh, would you look at that? That's not great. Yeah, the mask. Yeah, the mask with Jim Carrey, that like it's on me, you know? Yeah. And then somebody, I just know intuitively, I'm going to save somebody who's typing it. You're like, Lord of the Rings, the one ring, we're going to turn into Gollum. I just wanted to make everyone happy. I've been free from that defective codependency, as you can tell. I don't need to placate everyone's emotions. Lord of the Rings. All right. Uh, so I have a daily meditation practice, and what I experience is a bit of separation. And I can watch I'm a piece of garbage flow. And I can watch I effing hate myself flow. And what allows me to see is I'm annoyed by that person or I'm in fear. And that allows me to have that ability to watch. So that's the first place where there is that interplay between 10 and 11. And I'll share with you this experience. I can't tell you when it happened, but I remember I'm not good with timelines, but I remember the morning this happened. I was coming into consciousness. Like it's before I'm awake. It's before I'm thinking my own thoughts, you know, the thoughts that are on me are going. It was that. And I'm sort of coming into consciousness. And the thoughts that were happening in my mind were prayers. It was prayers. Now that, man, I couldn't have done that on self-will. I couldn't think myself into that. I cannot think myself into that because that is thinking that is happening when that part of my thinking brain is not actively thinking yet because I'm not awake. I'm sure I communicated that quite clearly. If not, we can all have a think about it. But that idea that like, I come to, and prayers are happening in my mind. And I can't tell you how not nice a place my brain can be. And you guys probably know, because you guys many of you probably have an internal landscape like mine. Man, I remember, this is not good. I shocked a mental health professional with how not good things were in here, which I will say is saying something, because I don't think I'm that special. And I was also, and to be honest with you, I was also trying to thread that thin line of like, I need to be honest enough to get help, but not so honest that I get locked up with my grippy socks, you know? that thin line that many of us have tried. So I was straddling that, and the guy was like, oh, he was like appalled with how bad it was in there. He was appalled with the level of self-hatred that I had. And this was at a couple of years sober. I think I've shared this with you guys. That it was a couple of years ago now. I was talking with a friend of mine who knew me in early recovery. And when I say early recovery, let me be clear. I mean year 2, year 3. That's when she first met me. I was not brand. Yeah, Paul had his grippy socks on. Eileen got some from the hospital. Not for that sort of thing, but they were. She's like, "Oh, could I have those?" Which I'm like, if anyone has grippy socks, I don't need grippy socks. Focus page. Okay. I'm not actually, I am a bit of a fall risk. Anywho, uh, it's fine. Don't look at it too closely. Uh, but I remember speaking with her. This was a couple of years ago, and she said, Paige, when I first met you, you were the most, the most. And I want to emphasize that because the takeaway is two things. One, that I win. I win. I'm the winner. Gold star. I win. Gold medal. Me. I win. Number one. But she said, you were the most negative and self deprecating person that I had ever met. That was year 2, year 3 of sobriety. So we had gotten a little bit better. We had some progress on that, some spiritual progress. And clearly, that's not who I am today. But that interplay between 10 and 11, like this stuff works, and it works in ways that I never thought possible. But it's rude because I have to do it. That's what's rude. And so that's the first interplay between step 10 and step 11, that I needed a meditative practice to begin to have the ability to see things as they popped up. I would literally be like 2 weeks later and be like, oh yeah, I'm resentful about that. That's how I was. So next week, because I did about as well on time as I normally do, next week what we'll do is we will talk about some of the other interplays between step 10 and step 11 and dive into the full 10 step directions. So what I will do is I will stop the recording and and we can all wrap it up with the Serenity Prayer.